the state of Maine wing of the Flying Aces, Wings Over Maine. We have Kennebec Valley Model Aviators, Franklin County Aircraft Modelers, the Brunswick area modelers, and anyone I've missed, I apologize. I'll put you in the schedule for our next demonstration later today, but I thank you all for being here, exhibitors and spectators. Looks like we're happening with the 300 Extra. I'm just going to let them fly and let you folks watch.
There it is. What? Flying
Once again, because of our size constraints, he is holding himself back. Just keep that in mind. What you're going to see, as amazing as it is, he's got a lot more in his repertoire and arsenal of flight.
You watching? You're not even watching it.
Now, if you can take your eyes off the plane while he's flying it, and I know that's a big chore, I want you to watch his thumbs and his fingers, what he's doing with this control. It may look like he's maybe not doing a whole lot right now as a cover, but keep an eye on his hands, and that'll tell a lie to how easy he makes this look. The coordination that it takes to do what he's just doing.
Nice, Bob.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I have only just begun to learn how to fly very limited RC stuff. And you may look up at this ceiling and say, boy, what a high ceiling. This is tremendously low to maneuver an airplane around. And hold is essentially the same thing that was used in cell phones for the vibrator motors. And these are just a lot of fun to see in flight. They're so light, so graceful. I like the little night vapor. You can see the 3 LED lights on the leading edge of the wing. And then the red and green lights on the trailing edges, just like on a boat. So you can tell where they're going at night, with who's coming and who's going, following that old maritime rule of right red returning. One of the most interesting things about these aircraft is the radio technology that's available today. Years ago, when you bought a remote control car, airplane, whatever, you had to worry about who was using the same frequency you were, because if you had a number of remote control vehicles in one space, you all had to be operating on different frequencies with specialized equipment, transmitters and receivers to make sure that nobody would steal your frequency or steal your vehicle. We're seeing a little bit of that today with the remote control that are powering the trains here. I'm hearing there's some interference from one remote to another, and somebody's train will take off unexpectedly. But with these little airplanes, that's not a problem. They utilize a spectrum technology which actually jumps through the whole range of the frequencies. Each one of these radios, transmitters, and receivers are actually switching frequencies many times per second, which ensures that no radio is going to run away with another vehicle in this technology. There you go. Thank you very much. Now Sandy's winding up one of his ultra-light, ultra-slow flyers. If you have a video camera with you today, I encourage you to start it up. You're going to want to catch this next flight on video. He's going to fly a couple of these ultra-light endurance indoor flyers. And I'm going to let you see what it does before I talk too much about it. If this comes near you, please do not try to catch it. If it lands near you, don't try to pick it up. It won't hurt you if it bumps into you, but just let it bump and then let it fall to the floor. This airplane is so light and delicate. Just the heat coming off the floor, me talking, us moving around, It's creating very tiny movements of the air. You could see this airplane struggling in a thermal when he first launched it. Now he's got it into a nice tight circle. And I'm going to give the microphone to Sandy to tell us a little bit about this type of plane.
This model is called a mini stick. It has a dimension of 7-inch wingspan, and it weighs a little bit less than a gram. Actually, this is a fairly heavy one.
I mentioned it before. Later on today, when all these exhibitors head back to their tables, I encourage you to take a moment to stop by their tables and talk to them, learn a little bit more about getting involved in the hobby. And while we're here, I'd like to thank the Great Falls Model Railroad Club at the back of the room and the Down East Steam Railway Guild, who are actually operating live steam locomotives for us today. They're burning naphtha in these small locomotives to boil water and make steam to make those trains run. Both of these groups have really pulled out the stops to be here with us this weekend as Bob steps up his performance a little bit, showing you a little bit more of what he's capable of with this Arrow. We have some videos of the Kennebec Valley Model Aviators down at their table in the Franklin County aircraft modelers. We also have flight simulators and remote control car simulators around the museum. We have an RC car simulator right here with Reedit Leisure Time, and the Kennebec Valley Model Aviators have a computer flight simulator. The neat thing about these simulators is they're not really games. You're actually flying or driving real models of cars. So if you want to learn how to fly, say, the Arrow, you can plug that into a flight simulator and actually practice with this particular aircraft. So you can become proficient with it on the computer before taking it out and trying it for real. Thank you very much, Bob Captain. Again, if one of these airplanes bumps into you or lands near you, don't try to catch it or pick it up. Just let it bump you. It's not going to hurt. And let it land at your feet. We'll let the modelers pick them up. This is just very, very thin balsa wood and tissue. And I'd like to say, Dave said Bob's was a hard act to follow, but I think this is pretty impressive. They're building these airplanes so that they do circle like you see here. And even though they don't have remote control of these airplanes, they've built the control into the planes. So they even come down and make perfect three-point landings. I think they've done a pretty admirable job. Now here's Sandy with a little bit bigger indoor duration aircraft. Now the name of this plane, Sandy?
This is called an Easy B. This is a little bit bigger, but it's actually lighter than the other one I was flying.
Now, I had to step into the other room while you were talking before. Did you talk about the skin on these airplanes? Now, just remember, if it comes near you, just let it go near, let it go by, and we'll pick it up.
That's okay.
Sandy needs both his hands to get this back together. Now, he told me, now some of these remote control helicopters are so wonderfully stable. We had a young man demonstrating one yesterday. It had two rotors. It was a coaxial rotor system. The helicopter was so stable that he was able to set this in a hover, and he actually set his remote control down and walked away from it while the helicopter stayed in place. We're not able to do that, I don't believe, with a single rotor like this. But it's just an example of how this technology has come along and how advanced it really is and accessible, making it easier to get yourself involved in the hobby. Performances, we had a young man flying a small helicopter like this. It had 2 sets of rotors though, and this helicopter was so stable, he put it in a hover and then set the remote down and walked away from it. Just not going to do that with this helicopter, but it's just an example of how stable some of these remote control helicopters are, making it very easy to get into the hobby. And I encourage you to talk to anyone here at Granite Leisure Time or any of the clubs to talk about getting involved in the remote control aircraft hobby or the free flight rubber hobby. Hobby does not need to be an expensive craft. I talked about the vapors that flew at the beginning, costing around $120. Dave Longstreet from the Flying Aces, who was flying his white Delta Dart just a few minutes ago, held his airplane up and said, this costs about $1. And the glider that Sandy provided for the young man to fly for us, Sandy said, well, that was basically free. It was built from straps and an old piece of styrofoam he had kicking around. Modeling does not need to be an expensive hobby, but it can certainly be a rewarding.
That's very nice, Jeff.
No matter what your budget is. And it's with the help of folks like all of the clubs and individual modelers who are here today, they can spread the word about these hobbies, this modeling. And we appreciate all of their dedication and efforts to be here this weekend. You take a look around and you can see how much work has gone into some of these displays that are here. Not just the time getting here today, but the time and energy that goes into building and assembling these models and setups.
I live in Warren, you know where that is? Worked out at Mass Machine down in Bristol. Big production machine.
Do you want to apply the extra toward the end?
Whatever you like.
Okay, after this?
Sure.
You can see Jeff has wonderful control all the way around this. He's flying in a circle backwards with this helicopter. Remote control helicopters are another amazing bit of showmanship. Some of these helicopters and the airplanes are capable of aerobatically. I've seen pilots flying some of these helicopters upside down, flipping them over and over. We won't do any of that inside here today.
You only do it once of that one.
But again, some of the videos that the clubs have brought with them will illustrate some of the abilities of these aircraft.
This guy might be getting into it. Not the helicopter?
Very nice. How fast can you spin the tail? Very nice again.
We have some more tables for them today, so they will sit down a bit more.
Very cool. Yeah.
We actually have one in the blue one.
Very nice, Jeff.
This little airplane is available in the box, ready to fly, everything you need for about $120. That includes the airplane, the radio, the battery, the charger, even the double-A batteries that go into the transmitter. Within an hour of purchasing one of these, you can have it charged up and flying. We even have a night vapor in the air with the 3 LED lights on the leading edge of the wing. Those maritime red and green lights, so when you're flying in the dark, you can tell who's coming and who's going by the color of the lights and their orientation. It's the old maritime rule of right, red, return, or right, red, returning.
Red, right, return.
Letting you know who's coming and who's going. And you'll notice that we have 3 virtually identical airplanes in the air simultaneously. One of the big advances in technology with radio control is this ability to fly multiple airplanes that are identical with similar equipment and not worry about stealing one another's frequencies. Years ago, if you had several pieces being operated at the same time in the same place, everyone had to have specialized equipment with fixed frequencies so you wouldn't worry about taking control of somebody else's plane or car or boat. One of the technologies available today being utilized here with the Vapors is spectrum technology, which means when you turn these airplanes and radios on, they'll hop through a whole broad band of frequencies looking to match up a unique frequency for that radio and that airplane, and once they lock in on each other, nobody can steal that frequency. Is ready to go. Oh, and he's going to launch from the ground. This is a rise off ground Delta Dart, also known as the AMA Cub. Now, while these free flight rubbers are in operation, if they fly near you or land near you, please do not try to catch them or pick them up. These stick.
Doesn't say out loud. Right.
The propeller is made out of yogurt containers, equal in the room of creating air currents. And this thing is so light, it's affected by those minute changes in air pressure and direction. But as you can see, he has this trimmed very well to fly in a nice tight circle. These super light airplanes are designed to be flown for endurance on a single charge of that rubber band. I'm going to give the microphone to Sandy to tell us a little bit about the construction of these airplanes.
They're, the lighter the airplane is, the more duration you can get with the limited power that the rubber band can carry. One of the issues with that is that the largest surface of that, of course, is the wings. The covering on this weighs less than 2/100ths of an ounce per square foot. So it's very difficult to measure the weight of it. It's so thin that it can't be cut. At least I can't cut it with a scissors or a knife. The way I do it is I cover the wings down flat on a piece of glass and then use a soldering iron around the outside edge of it. And also the heat from the soldering iron also helps seal the plastic.
As Sandy said, this is a very, very lightweight, very delicate airplane. And there we go. What an absolutely beautiful. Look at that. It's almost stuck in a thermal. And that lovely circle that it's performing is built right into the airplane. That's the way he's designed and trimmed this, so it will fly in that circle. That's how you can achieve flights of over 4 minutes with an airplane like this, because it just circles around and around. How many winds do you have in the rubber right now, Sam?
About 1/3 the power.
There are about 400 turns of the rubber band. He said that's about a third of the power that this piece of rubber is capable of.
You trying to play chicken or something?
We're used to it.
Arrow's going to give his Pussycat another flight in just a moment as soon as the Easy V is down and out of the way. You might have noticed he broke the wing of those guys. They were proud when they broke their cars and trucks. They've got these things back in here. They're running them already, some of them.
You should be happy for that.
Yeah. Nice.
And that was a great repair job, Arrow. And in just about 3 feet, he's off the ground and in the air. Ready for aerobatics. Beautiful knife edge. This is like watching aerobatics with big planes on a smaller, slower scale. Just came in. I want to just stress that this room may look large to you and me, but for what Bob's doing right now, this is a tiny space to be doing what he's doing, which is just an illustration of the control that these guys have over these aircraft.
Some of us have. Not everybody can do what he's doing. No. That's beautiful. Yeah. This is the first plane I ever saw him do that with out inside.
Well, they thought it was, he did it yesterday.
And he's flying a rather large indoor electric. This is the Arrow. Made by BudgetRC. And while it may look very simple what he's doing, hovering this airplane like this, it's anything but simple. Just take a look at his hands as he's operating this remote. You'll see how very active he is while that airplane just sort of hangs there. I talked about the advances in the radio technology. Battery technology has come ahead in quantum leaps in the last few years. We used to see remote control airplanes almost solely powered by gasoline engines. But we've seen an emergence in electrics in the last 10 years or so. These electric motors and the batteries that power them, the LiPo batteries, tremendously lightweight and powerful. If you were outside watching the jumping demonstration put on by the folks at Granite Leisure Time with their cars and trucks, you get a little bit of a taste of the power that these electric motors provide, how quickly that power is available. Well, in large part that's driven by the battery technology that's driving those motors. This Arrow is a fully aerobatic model airplane, as you can see. Featuring all the control surfaces that you would find on a full-size airplane, ailerons, rudder, and elevators, giving him full 3D control. Unfortunately, the airplanes in our collection can't do what he's doing right now. And this is just an immense amount of control what he's doing right now.